What's up, guys? So I wanted to talk to you real quick about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse because I went to see it last night and I didn't get a chance to really talk about it. Well, I talked about it a little bit on my blog, but I didn't get a chance to sit down and do a video on it. But I felt like I had to because, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, like I went into it thinking it was going to be pretty good, but with some concerns because it was still Sony Pictures Animation, which does not have the best track record, and it was a Spider-Man movie, which don't have the best track record, and it was a Spider-Man movie about Miles Morales, which I don't think has ever been done before, and it was a full-length animated Spider-Man movie, which I'm not sure has ever been done before, like on the big screen. So there were a lot of firsts here and a lot of ways in which it could have gone terribly wrong, especially with it being a multiverse movie where you've got multiple different characters and stuff like that. Like there are a lot of ways that this could have been a mess, but it wasn't. And I'm gonna cover myself right here at the beginning and say there may be some spoilers. I'm just gonna because I'm just not. I may bring up something that happens to have a spoiler, so I'm just gonna warn you right up front. If you haven't seen it, you need to go see it, but you may not want to watch this if you don't want spoilers. With that being said, yeah, this movie was so good. And y'all know me, like, I'm pretty critical of movies. Like, there's a lot of ways in which I think even the movies that I really like could have been improved. But this might literally be the best movie I've seen this year, and by this year I mean 2018, even though it's technically 2019. This movie came out in 2018, and as of the movies that I saw in 2018, I really think this might be the best one I've seen, like literally. And I saw Black Panther, and I saw Avengers Infinity War, and I saw both of those movies twice. I paid to see them twice in theaters. I thought they were very good. But this is next level. I saw Incredibles 2, which I thought was good, but not as good as it could have been, or didn't live up to its potential. But I felt like the first Incredibles was such a lightning in the bottle kind of experience that it was going to be hard for them to top it, especially 15 years later, or 14 years later. So even as far as the Incredibles go, this was way better than that. And even like, what to say, like Black Panther, the Avengers. Well, Black Panther, while very good in terms of being sort of a cultural milestone, beautiful designs, African-inspired clothing and designs and costumes and stuff, great. But when you strip all that beautiful stuff away, like when you strip the fancy aesthetic away from it, it was just another Marvel movie. I mean, as far as the beats that the plot hit, the protagonist who's the son of a king or something, and he has to find his way and decide what's the right thing to do between his family's legacy and what he's called to do, and blah, 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 blah. It was just Thor or Captain America or whatever. In terms of the plot points, it was just another Marvel movie. A great Marvel movie. I did enjoy it. But it was a Marvel movie, pretty standard. And then with the Avengers Infinity War, it wasn't a standard Marvel movie because it didn't follow the typical 3-act structure, at least not strictly. But that, even though it was great, was emotionally like a lot, and just generally a lot to take in. I mean, I watched it twice, and there were things I picked up the second time that I didn't catch the first time because it was just so much to deal with, and it was just like intense in that regard. So again, it was good, but I didn't think it was. I mean, I did think it was good, but I still think that this movie was actually better. And I did feel like the Infinity War was a little long. What else did I see this year? Saw Jurassic World, the second one, which I didn't think was very good. I mean, yeah, no, plot-wise, it was really, really, really dumb. And I think that Jurassic World movies have always been sort of stupid, but I feel like it kind of abandoned any connection to like logic it had and just went way off the deep end with the plot. It was kind of ridiculous. So, and then there may have been some other movies I saw this year. Those are the ones that are popping in mind. But anyway, of all those movies, I definitely thought that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the best. In terms of length, it was just the perfect length. At no point did I feel like the plot was dragging. It felt like it was just the right amount of time. Like, I didn't even have to think about... Like, there are a lot of movies where I think about, okay, how long has this been going on? Or this seems like a logical place to end it. Why are we still doing this? But this movie, I didn't even think about how long it was going. I think I looked it up later. It was like 172 minutes or something like that. But honestly, I didn't even think about it because it was the perfect length, and every moment from the beginning to the end had something going on. It had action. It had something happening, so it kept your attention. It wasn't like there were, boring expositional parts. And there is exposition. I mean, we have 6 different Spider-Men in this movie, or 7, 6? I think there's 6 total. Let's see, there's regular Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, the robot Spider-Man with the anime girl, the black and white Spider-Man that was voiced by Nicolas Cage, and the pig. So 7? 6. 6, I think. I can't do math. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it was 6. So we had 6 main characters, sort of, and then, the main character is Miles Morales, which I'll get to in a second. But yeah, so it had a lot of characters. There was definitely some exposition, but it felt right. It felt natural. It felt like a comic book. Like, there are a couple things I want to point out here. The characters and the animation. I'll talk about the animation first. The animation was just breathtaking. I mean, like, for this to be an animated movie, sometimes animation, it's just animated because, well, that's what it is, but, like, there's nothing special about it, or the animation is just sort of a means to an end. Here, it felt like a medium. Like, they were using animation, because when it comes to the live-action superhero movies, those are fun, but there are still limitations, because you're dealing with real humans, and even though you can CGI things and special effects things, there are some limitations in it just being that you're dealing with human beings. But for animation, you have a lot more freedom. It's a comic book movie. You can have characters move, and more slapstick and more different things that you couldn't really take seriously in a live action film that work in animation. And the animation was breathtaking. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful character designs, beautiful scenery, beautiful settings. The characters each had unique designs. Like, no two characters looked exactly the same. There was they each had very unique, eye-catching designs, very comic booky. And they just really, there were times where I was, like, checking. At one point, I literally looked around and was like, are other people wearing glasses? Did I, like, walk into the 3D theater and not realize? And I didn't grab my glasses on the way in? Because there were a few parts where, like, the outlines were fuzzy and it was, like, blue and red. And I was like, is it supposed to be 3D? Is this the wrong theater? But it was just the way it was designed to have sort of lines of a comic book. And there were times where, like, text boxes popped up and it was just like a comic book. And there were action scenes where, like, a character would move a certain way and suddenly the art style would change a little bit, and so it was like straight the explosive colors of the pages of a comic book, and then it would switch. And all of the different Spiderverse Spider-Men or Spider people, they all had a different art style. Gwen Stacy's is probably the closest to Miles Morales. It's like Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker, that come from different universes, have a very similar aesthetic to Miles. But then Spider-Pig or Spider Ham has like a Looney Tunes kind of aesthetic, Noir Spider-Man, who's the Nicolas Cage one, he has like he's constantly black and white, even though everything else around him is in color. He's black and white, which is funny, and he's got that kind of old style aesthetic, even though I think the Noir Spider-Man comics are kind of recent. And then who else? Penny Parker. She's like got a very anime style. So you've got very different styles, and yet they all work. It doesn't feel like they're clashing. It feels like they all flow together in the scene where they're all interacting with each other, but they all have a unique kind of aesthetic. And that was just incredible. Like I said, and the scenery, the action scenes. Oh, it's breathtaking. It's hard to even describe. You just have to see it, but it is just incredible. There were moments where my jaw just dropped. I was just like, it was just beautiful. Visually, it was gorgeous, and it was so well put together. There's this amazing shot that I'm pretty sure they used in the trailers, but where, like, Miles is finally learning his powers, and he, like, jumps off the building, and he's, like, jumping straight down, and the shot is him, like, jumping headfirst down, and then the buildings of New York are around him, and it's just a glorious shot. It's a beautiful shot. There's so much going on with the way they move and the way they climb and the way they swing, and so great. The characters are great. We've got a couple of different villains. We've got the Kingpin, who's just a giant, like, mobster dude, and even he gets sort of not exactly an arc, but some motivation to him. They could have easily just made him some generic bad guy for Spider-Man to fight, but we reveal that he's trying to open up the multiverse. Basically, the plot is that he's opening up black holes in the multiverse, and we eventually find out the reason he's doing it is because he lost his family in a car accident while he was fighting the Peter Parker in Miles Morales' universe. He was fighting him, and his wife walked in on him and got upset, and she left with their son, and then they got in a car accident and died. And so he blames Spider-Man for their death, and he wants to bring them back. So he wants to go into a multiverse and bring another version of his wife and son back. And so to do this, he recruits the help of Dr. Octopus, except in this universe, it's a female Dr. Octopus. Her name's like Vivian Octavian or something like that, and so it's a female Dr. Octopus, which I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so she's helping him build like this multiverse thing, but if they do it, it's gonna like basically blow up the city and ruin everything. But he doesn't care because he just wants his family back, and he hates Spider-Man, and he ends up killing Peter Parker, the Peter Parker in this world, and that's sort of a sad scene because because that Peter Parker meets up with Miles briefly when Miles first gets his powers and promises to help train him, but then they get into an altercation with Kingpin and he ends up getting killed. And so that's when Miles beats the other Peter Parker and from the other universe, and that Peter Parker is a little older, kind of washed up, his marriage is falling apart with Mary Jane. It's kind of a mess. And so, it's very real. Like, you really feel for that Peter Parker. You feel for the other Peter Parker that was short-lived. Miles Morales, who's the main character, is super well done. He's a kid. He's, a middle schooler. He's black and Latino. I think he's Puerto Rican and black. And he's got a great family. He's got loving parents, and he still has 2 loving parents at the end of the movie, so that's nice. He's got an uncle who he really loves and cares about, but his uncle's kind of more rogue, and he doesn't really get along with his father, which I kind of wish they had gotten into that a little bit more. That's one of my few criticisms, is that could have been delved into a bit more. But yeah, the uncle, it lives in an apartment, whatever, and he like helps graffiti because Miles really likes to do graffiti, and so he like kind of helps his nephew do that kind of stuff and gives him some guidance, and he's like a really important figure to Miles. And we find out later that he's actually working for Kingpin, and so there's this whole thing there, and he about kills Miles, but then Miles reveals that he is who he is, and then he doesn't kill him, but then he gets shot by Kingpin. So, Miles has his uncle die, which is sad and everything. But whatever. Those are plot things, but the characters are all well written. Even like Spider-Ham, even the silly comic relief characters are well written. You care about each and every one of them, their plots and their backgrounds. You get insight, and they don't take a long time. You hear that, Suicide Squad? You can do brief introductions to the background of your characters and still make them make sense and still have them matter, and not just be like random snippet flashbacks of characters, and then you're just kind of thrown into the action. You're like, who the crap are these people? Why do I care? They managed to do the whole quick flashback to their backstory thing while making the characters compelling and likable, which is impressive. Like I said, the way they paced it, the way they plotted it out, the scripting, the casting, the way the characters interact with each other, it's all very, very, very well done. And I feel like it was just an experience, honestly. It makes me sad that it didn't get as much press as some of the other superhero movies, because I feel like it's the best of any of them that have come out this year. It did win a Golden Globe, so that's good. It should win an Oscar, but we all know that the Oscar nominees are going to be a Disney Pixar film, a high art film that nobody watched, 4 other random kids movies that I never saw, and the Disney film's going to win. But it should be this one because it was very great. I love it. I highly recommend it. I gave it a 10 out of 10 in my review on Facebook, I think. Yeah, that it's highest praise I could give for a movie like this. For all that could have been done, they gave Lord and Miller creative control, because you can tell that they gave him. I really wish Solo. That's another movie I saw this year that I completely forgot about, because I wish that we had seen the Lord and Miller version, because then it would have at least been memorable, even if it was bad. But yeah, Lord and Miller kill it. They knock it out of the park. Brilliant movie. Yeah, absolutely incredible. 10 out of 10. Go watch it.